table than this shit.
Dude.
There's no reason our knees should be touching right now. It's not official.
It's
not official. No, it's not official jiu-jitsu right now.
I kind of like it.
And then you're looking right in my soul too.
I can reach over and just touch you.
Right.
Did I tell you
the right chakra.
Brought some taekwondo in there.
You don't want that, buddy.
Dude, I signed up at a second gym today, dude.
Just for fun, or because you want to spit in God's face again by trying to alter the body He gave you?
Well, I am perfecting the body He gave me, which is it's a tall order. I know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just felt like a second gym. I don't know if this is like a midlife crisis thing. Or...
Are we talking about like a fitness gym?
Like a place where I lift.
Okay, so you're already a member of LA Fitness
No,
what is it called?
LA Fitness. That place is junk.
All right.
Lifetime Fitness.
That's the one. All right.
And then I just signed up at Alpha Elite, which is in Stafford.
It's just another lift.
It's like a cooler gym. It's more like hardcore, sort of.
Like CT Fletcher's gonna be in there cussing
up
a storm.
It's almost like CT Fletcher. It's definitely the kind of gym you would see CT Fletcher in, motivating the fuck out of you to get big. And fuck, taking it easy. Get big.
Yeah.
Lift that shit. God, I love me some CT Fletcher, man.
Fuck that noise, man.
We go live?
Yeah. Let's get after it.
Let's get this done. All right, man. So here we are, episode 19.
You just said 19 last week.
20, episode 20 of the Bromos Jiu Jitsu podcast live from recording
live from
Henzo Gracie headquarters, Sugar Land, Texas.
Yeah,
what's up, man?
Not much, man. Been a good week. Finally Friday. It's funny because we talk about people get all excited about thank God it's Friday, but for us it's almost like we still have to teach Fridays, we still have to teach Saturdays, And this weekend should be awesome because we have a couple of people competing at that Third Coast Grappling.
Is that this weekend? No. That's March. This weekend
the one for the kids is this weekend.
So there's kids only this weekend.
Yeah, so Alina and Brody are competing on that one, and weigh-ins are tomorrow. Sunday is the actual tournament. Doors open at 2. So, man, we get all excited about Friday, but
yeah, I'm excited about Brody and Alina fighting. That's going to be. They've been working hard.
Yeah,
Brody always does well. Alina's been. We were killing her the other day.
If she can survive what we put her through, she's going to be just fine.
Be just fine. Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do. It's going to be pretty cool. But
Jesus, what else is going on?
Besides me getting swole,
with your 2 memberships,
two. Literally, it's like I'm like, okay, so I could do Lifetime in the morning at they open at 4 a.m. So I can get up Jocko style at 4:30 or 5. Get to the gym, get a good workout in, get home, get cleaned up, get to work. If I want to do a second workout, then I can swing over to Alpha Elite after work.
Yeah.
Knock out a quick workout and then come into jiu-jitsu and train. Or if I don't feel like getting up early, I can just do Alpha Elite in the afternoon. It's just a different scenery, a different
Or
feel.
You could just get rest and not have 2 memberships to 2 different gyms to lift heavy shit. Like, again,
I can sleep.
Marcelo Garcia has never lifted weights his entire life.
I can rest when I'm dead. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'm not Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah, none of us are, man. But I mean, this whole thing with 2 memberships, it's crazy to me because I wouldn't even have one. But I guess because I've never been a fan of gyms or lifting weights or supplements and all that. Like, how do you keep up with all that? Because you're training jiu-jitsu, you got a full-time job, now you got 2 memberships. Like, what do you do to recover? Do you take supplements? I mean, like, what's going on here?
So that's a good question. I think one is sleep, which sometimes it's hard to come by. Especially this month for me, I've had a hard time sleeping, but it's picking up. But so supplements. There are supplements to help you sleep, supplements to help you recover. There's some good stuff. I'm not a huge supplement guy, but I do take supplements just because I do a lot of stuff to my body. But the thing about supplements is most supplements I've taken, I've been very underwhelmed by. I've not really been, overly impressed or felt a lot of benefits from it. But I will say, I started taking Jocko supplements.
Jocko from
Origins,
yeah.
And I did that because through Invictus we have a little deal. We're RA and I are now sponsored instructors for Origin with the Invictus deal and making our gis and stuff like that. They're a supporter of our movement. But they sent me some supplement stuff, and I was like, okay. And they sent me the joint, I think it was the Joint Warrior or something like that. It's a joint warfare, so it's for your joints, obviously. They sent me some Hypnos, which is for sleeping. Sent me some fish oil, and got some test for like testosterone booster. And I'm gonna tell you, man, this is the first time I've actually taken supplements. And when people ask me, I will recommend it because I took the Joint Warfare and immediately felt. Remember, I was coming off all that tendonitis. It really helped me kind of come off of it and get my body feeling normal again. Where I feel good, physically good. Like I don't feel like anything's like hurting. The fish oil is good. You know, fish oil is always good for you. The Hypnos, man. When I first took Hypnos, I've taken sleep aids before, and it would always leave me groggy when I wake up. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you still feel medicine heady. Yep. It's hard to wake up. So I would always be nervous about taking them. So I took the Hypnos. It knocked me out. I got a solid like 6 to 7 hours, which for me is pretty good. And woke up feeling refreshed, like ready to go. Like I was amazed and shocked by it. That was the one I recommended more than anybody else, was that Hypnos. And the testosterone, I definitely feel more energy once I've been on it for over a month. I definitely feel more energetic and stuff. So that's the only line I've ever taken where I'm like, wow, you know. And then of course there's pre-workouts and stuff. And I haven't tried the pre-workout because I have my own pre-workout I use that I've been playing with, and it works good for me. I think there's a lot of good pre-workouts out there. But yeah, I think supplements are good for if you're doing a lot of physical activity, and that wears your body down. And certainly doing a lot of jiu-jitsu is one, and if you add lifting in it, it's another. But do you take some supplements?
So, no supplements for this guy. But going, you know, like you talked about pre-workouts, and I think right around my blue belt was when I started trying to play around with pre-workouts, because you got your blue belt. It's pretty serious now, right? You know, you got to get after it, and you got to conquer the world. So my experience with pre-workouts was an absolute shit show. It's almost like you have to be Walter White from Breaking Bad to like figure out a good combination or what to take, whether it's a half a scoop, a full scoop, and then there's all these weird timelines, like this one's taking 30 minutes before your workout, this one's 45 minutes, this one's right before. And man, I had every kind of hiccup you can think of. I take it, start driving to the gym, usually about a 35-minute drive when I first started from where I was living. I'm in the car, super road rage, sweating, biting off all my fingernails, just like super, because it was like already coursing through my blood, you know, and it just getting me. And then I get to the gym and I'd be flat, you know. Then I'd be like, okay, no, you know, I don't want to do that because that's not working. So I'm like, okay, well, let me get to the gym and take it there, right?
Yeah.
Take it there. Monster through the warm-ups, right? Monster, give me some more, you know, hip escapes, man. I'm murking all these warm-ups. Then it gets time to live row, dead, flat, you know. Then, you know, I kept playing with it, trying to figure out the right sequence, the right timing, which brand. And man, it was just always an absolute shit show. And the scariest thing to me was, like right around purple belt level, was playing around with different pre-workouts and going through the workouts, the warm-ups, I should say, and starting like to feel like I couldn't slow my heart down. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just shortness of breath. And it was just kind of like, damn, man, am I going to have a heart attack here, you know? And so I never had any real good consistency with when it came to supplements. I was not supplements, but pre-workouts. I was never able to really figure out like the right sequence of when to take it, how much to take it. So I don't do any of it now. And for me, it's funny because you say supplements. I know you're talking about, you know, actual supplements when you talk about it, but for me, I still lump everything together. Like
pre-workout's still like a supplement.
But see, in my mind, it's like,
yeah, it's
when you break it down, it's I still kind of lump everything together. Yeah. But I think what you're talking about is just more to help with recovery, being preventative on some of that stuff too. For me, like the only thing I've ever done, like I said, is the pre-workouts, and it's just never ever gone well for me.
I think it encompasses all, and I do mean all. Like pre-workouts a supplement just as much as the recovery supplements are. You know, they're just all different supplements to supplement your workout. I've taken pre-workout before training. Like if I've had a hard day or I worked out real hard and like early, and then I want to get like I'm going to train that night. Like say on a hard night, like a Warrior Wednesday or whatever we're doing, I'll pop a pre-workout just to get my body back up and going. That's probably not recommended because you're really not supposed to take pre-workout twice in 24 hours, but.
Or put it directly on your tongue and then drink some energy drink.
That's always the way I do it. And
I don't know how your heart doesn't explode.
Look, man, listen, I'm a savage. It's not something that everybody can do. I don't know what to tell you about that. But anyway, yeah, that's I don't know, man. Supplements, I think it's just one of those things. I think as individuals, you have to play with and see if it works for you. I do think as you get older, like the joint warfare or any the stuff for your joints is super helpful. Fish oil, those things just keep stuff lubricated and moving right.
Yeah.
I think you would benefit from it too.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I know...
Because you're getting a little bit up there in age.
Well, I've noticed that getting up and getting down from, stagnant positions, I hear all this popping and cracking now, and it's just like, damn, like... It's funny now when you get up and people are like, damn, was that your knee or was that your ankle? And it's like, and to me, it's just like the norm. I'm like, yeah, doesn't yours pop like that every time? And like, no, you might want to get that checked out. And it's like, nah, But man, yeah, I definitely need to look into something to like, I think for me, like more recovery stuff. And,
yeah.
And I'm always down for something that'll help me sleep because I don't mess with like any kind of stuff like that only because I've had that experience with just something as simple as NyQuil where, I wake up and it's 12 hours later and I still don't know where I'm at and I don't know how I got to work or...
I want to get you some of those Hypnos. I think I gave some to Ann, our friend Ann.
Yeah.
And she was like, are you sure? I said, I just gave her some. I said, here, try it. I promise you. Man, she told me the next day, she was like, holy... Same experience I had. Man, knocked me up and I woke up feeling great.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're doing. I hope it's nothing illegal. I'm pretty sure it's not. They're very, Jocko and Origin.
Yeah,
it's obviously going to be a great, great source. But, man, whatever they're doing, it's working. I don't know. Anyway. You sent me and...
couple of black belts?
Yeah, you sent me and Professor Ari and Professor Keith a message the other day, and it was a great question. I think what you asked was if you could, why don't you phrase it? How'd you put it? What was the best way?
So the question was basically, if you had a time machine and you could go back. So here it is. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give the white belt you? So again, we're talking about knowing what we know now. Mm-hmm. If there was a way to go back and talk to your white belt self, what would you say? Because I got a response from Professor Keith Owens. I got one from Ari and our buddy Mr. Columbus as well.
Oh, that's right, Mike.
You want me to read theirs? Or you
I was thinking about it, and what I was thinking about, I was actually thinking about on the ride over here. And what would I tell my white belt self? And I think I've talked about it before, but I think what I would tell myself is get in the gi quicker, because the gi is, this is my opinion, you learn so much more in the gi. You learn how to be so much more technical in the gi because the movements are so, everything is by inches, and you can rely less upon athleticism than you can in no gi. So I'd put myself in the gi quicker and spend more time in it, because I didn't spend a lot of time in it when I first started. I did some, but I was spending a lot of time doing no gi and trying to play with MMA and shit like that. But dive into the gi more first, and then be technique focused, because again, I was younger, I was athletic. I think I'm still kind of athletic, and
fake news.
and I would rely on that a lot, and I really felt like that hurt me, especially when I got to about mid blue belt level. I realized my technique was trash compared to a lot of other people. And I had to really start going, oh my gosh, I got to really focus on like this me exploding and doing these things it's not going to keep working anymore. It's just not. So I think I would tell myself be gi focused and technique focused. And then like you always have athleticism and strength and stuff in the reserve if you need it for a competitive role, but the other things are going to serve you so much better in the long run. That's kind of what I was thinking.
When I first sent the question to you, I didn't really think too much about it. My initial response was pretty quick, and it was, if I could go back to my white belt self, it was just one thing that I thought of, which was be humble. That was the first thing I remember thinking, and it was a very straightforward answer. It was a very simple thing. I didn't put almost any thought into it. And it was just like, be humble, because I remember starting out thinking I was better than I was. Mm-hmm. And you're right, early on you get away with a lot because you're going against people that are same level as you, same athletic level for the most part, because at least the way we came up, you weren't getting a lot of higher belts to roll with you. If you got a blue belt to roll with you, that was like a big deal, and so the people you're training with, you're pretty much on the same level, and when you start having success, it gets to your head and you think you're better than you really are. And I've said this before, but I'm to this day grateful to Chris Columbus, one of our buddies, that I learned really quick the importance of humility, because I would make jokes at you and Phil and some of the other guys, not thinking that some of the other blue belts would get offended by the things I was saying, because you guys were like my family. Buddies, yeah. But I didn't have a blue belt, and y'all did, and he did, and I didn't realize at the time that it's like a brotherhood. It's like, even though you and I were brothers, there's a different kind of brotherhood and bond between you and Columbus at the time, because you guys are both blue belts together. Mm-hmm. I'm just the white belt running my mouth, and Chris reminded me real quick about how I wasn't shit and damn near broke my arm. So when I first thought of the question, that was my first response, was just humility, like, keep your mouth shut, train and just keep your mouth shut. That was like the biggest thing. Right. And then I sat back after I sent it to you, and then I read what Professor Keith had to say, and then Mike Columbus and Ari, and I put a little bit more thought into it, and I started thinking, one of the other things I think that if I could go back and tell myself, would have been more along the lines of to remember that at the end of the day, black belts are just regular people like the rest of us, in the sense that they're not gods. I would have told myself, don't hero worship. Don't think that because a black belt said it's gospel. Because I remember, thinking, when Eric Williams, our first professor, when he would walk into the room, just what a presence he was and how intimidating he was. And it was just like, whatever he said was just like, oh my God, it's the gospel, Yeah. And you didn't question it, you just kind of, whatever he said, that's just the way it was. And, early on, that's how I felt like throughout when I first started jiu-jitsu, was these black belts, they were like gods, because look, here I am, a white belt that hasn't done anything, and then these guys have been black belts for years at that point when we met them. And that whole thing about hero worshiping black belts, it leads down a whole bunch of other things where you create this this blind loyalty to these instructors, to your academy, because when you first start off, and if anybody's listening to this and you're a white belt or a blue belt, I guarantee you that there is nothing that I can say to you right now that will convince you that your academy is not the best academy on the planet. Your instructor is the best instructor on the planet. And I know that for a fact, because that's exactly how I felt when I was a white belt, and you couldn't tell me anything other than elite MMA at the time, because that's where we started. And now looking back on it, it's just kind of like, there's things that you see that just you didn't know what you didn't know at the time. If you're in an environment where it's frowned upon, where I want to go visit my buddy at another gym, and that becomes a whole thing where we have to start have a meeting about it, and you're being told what's going on, or what are we not doing correctly here, that you don't want to go outside of the gym. And it's just like, all these questions as a white belt, it's confusing, because you're not thinking anything diabolical like that. You just want to go train with your buddy.
Yeah.
That's as simple as I remember it being in my mind. Like, man, I just want to go hang out with my buddies from other gyms and see what they're doing, and get on the mats with these guys. And it turns into a thing. So, looking back on it now, the main things I would tell you is, like I said, be humble, and then don't hero worship your instructors. Whether it's right or wrong, to put black belts or instructors on a pedestal or hold them to a higher standard, that's debatable. But at the end of the day, like, they're just like everyone else. You are paying for a service, and if you're paying for that service, at the end of the day, there needs to be somewhat of that kind of merchant customer type of relationship on some levels, where it's like, you don't get to tell me that I can't go train somewhere else. You don't get to tell me that it is this way only because you said that at your academy. Like, if you're in an environment where you're feeling suffocated and like you don't have any freedom and you don't have a voice, then something's wrong. Because at the end of the day, remind yourself, guys, that this place or your academy does not exist without you, the paying customer. And I didn't think about things like that when I was a white belt. I just thought that it was what it was. And man, looking back now at the different gyms I've been to, that I've actually trained at and then just visited, it's just like, it's very eye-opening to go back and be a white belt and be like, man, I was a fucking idiot. Like, why did I think that? But it's like, again, when you first start off, you don't know what you don't even know.
I think you bring up, and this could be a good, this I think would be a great topic for maybe the next podcast, gym red flags. Because I think two of them are, if there's hero worship of the professor at that academy, that's a big red flag. 'Cause that shouldn't be happening. And the other one is, it's more than frowned upon, but it's, if you try to go train at another gym because we all have friends that train at different gyms. And it's not just frowned upon, but you have to do it in secret, not take a picture.
Yes.
I think that's a red flag too, because I think that's starting to create an unhealthy environment in that gym. I don't want to dive too deep into the weeds on that one, but I think we should address that on the next one. That's a good topic.
No, it's a good topic, and it's funny because we could ruin a lot of people's days on Sundays at open mats with a lot of people. Hey, don't tag me. Don't tag me. It's like, oh man.
You're not lying about that one.
But I'm going to read you what Professor Keats had to say on the matter. He said, be on bottom all the time and get good from there. And I thought about what he said because...
I'm on bottom all the time because I have a choice. Most times, I just am there.
But it was a very simple answer. And I remember thinking like, well, that just seems like it's an oversimplification. But then I started thinking about it in that we always tell people, part of jiu-jitsu is learning how to be comfortable in very uncomfortable positions. And I know for me as a white blue belt, I was getting murked in side control, didn't know what the hell was going on. So what did I do? I started going to train at those 630 classes with these giants. Everyone was over 40 or everyone was over 250 pounds.
You're talking about elite. Mm-hmm. I remember those classes.
Remember the 630 classes?
Jesus Christ.
And you remember those guys were just...
Because I would come in off night shift sometimes and go train, and it was all these ginormous like offensive lineman type guys. You know what I learned was how to keep them off of me. Like I learned, I got really good at putting my feet on hips and getting grips, and just I couldn't do much with them other than keep distance. I mean, I was like a blue belt maybe at that time, so it was like just keeping distance. Oh, that was.
No, that was a shit time because I did that for about 6 months, and I remember it was like, man, getting stuck on the bottom under these guys. It was, it's the weirdest thing. You start to mentally shut down. You start to panic. You'll panic tap just from pressure. Or because you're feeling suffocated, and it's just like. That's the thing that makes sense now when I look back, and that's why when I read it from Professor Keith Owens, it kind of made sense that you better get good at being on the bottom if you want to survive in jiu-jitsu when you first start, because if you can feel comfortable knowing that you're not gonna die, you're gonna be okay. It's like that was like I said, when I read it at first I was like, well, it's kind of overly simple.
He's real big on that. He's very big on. I'm not surprised that was his advice, because he's real big on putting yourself in positions of disadvantage and learning how to get out of those. I like to do that too. It's fun. It's all, depending on the belt level of the person or the skill level of the person, to see the look at defeat on someone's face when you give them like the best position they could possibly have, and then within like 15, 20 seconds you've reversed the position or at least nullified it, and just to see how it looked like, I don't know.
So I'll read you another one. Professor Mike Columbus, he said, don't just learn moves step by step. Understand what you're trying to accomplish first. And I read that and I kind of got to thinking about where he was going with that, and it kind of it's true a lot of times that you'll as a white belt you'll learn a move, but it's like you don't really understand why you're doing the move or kind of get the overall picture of it, and it made sense, because I started thinking about like how how it was for me when I first started. It was just kind of like on the simplest way to kind of break down what Mike made me think about was I remember doing warm-ups as a white belt, and I remember doing bear crawls. And this one always stood out to me. I remember doing bear crawls and always thinking, why the fuck are we doing, what does this have to do with jiu-jitsu? Because, the more you learned about jiu-jitsu, the more I thought some of the warm-ups that we would do, they make sense. They're applicable. If I do a hip escape, everything about jiu-jitsu is about hip escaping. Right? But if I'm doing a bear crawl, it's like, what the fuck does a bear crawl have to do with anything? And then it wasn't until like, man, I had to be in late blue belt where we were working some technique and they were showing that when somebody gets a hold of your leg, you turn and you either just run or, you do the kick out, or there was a technique shown where if you go over the top of somebody that's trying to get under you, like in an X guard, and they bring you over the top and you plant your hands down, and you can start to run away. And that was the first time I ever saw a fucking bear crawl. I'm like,
it is a bear crawl.
Son of a bitch. There's the bear crawl. Right. But see, that's the thing. Like you learn in a way where it's like, this is the move, go do it. But you don't understand like why we're doing this move. Like, where does this lead us? What's the bigger picture? And like I said, when I read Mike's, it was kind of like, okay, I see. I connected the dots more on the warm-ups, because there's a lot of warm-ups that we would do that never ever made sense to me. Most warm-ups you can kind of tie in, but a lot of these I was like, huh? And nobody takes the time to explain to you like, well, you do a bear crawl for this reason, or you do an alligator. Or some people call them Spider-Mans. You do that because it helps to develop the right mechanics of, keeping pressure when you're in
side control. I just thought we just get our bodies warm. So we start training. That's all I thought.
Nah, see, for me, I was like,
everything I've ever done, like in the military, we did warm-ups before we did our running and stuff, and everything. It's always been like football, sports. You always do like these warm-ups to get your body ready to do what you're going to do. So I never put you. See, that's just you. You're so damn analytical. I just like, okay, let's do it. I'm such a fucking follower, like from my paramilitary background. I'm like, all right, that's what we got to do. Okay, let's do it. What's next? Okay.
And then I'll read you the last one from my buddy Ari. Ari's got something to say.
My buddy Ari.
He said, I would tell the white belt me to stay the course. There will be people in your path that believe they are the chosen ones. Funny enough, we were just talking about hero worshiping, right? That they alone have all the answers to jiu-jitsu. They will tell you how horrible you are, your affiliation, or your teachers. They will try to turn you to the other side. They will brainwash you and tell you that the only black belts who compete are legit, which is funny because we've had that conversation about, do you have to be a legit black belt?
I had a conversation with someone yesterday, as a matter of fact.
They'll tell you that testing is stupid, that speed and strength are more important than technique. Those who carry the mantle will profess they are pure and ethical. You soon find out that's all bullshit. Find your vibe and you will find your tribe.
So one thing real quick. This is the problem with philosophy majors. Between him and John Danaher, and Ari, I love you, but man, they will give you a super long freaking... And that's good stuff, by the way. That's great stuff. But man, philosophy majors they'll take a sentence and turn it into a thesis without even trying. But
he touched on a lot of great points, things that we touched on as well, which again, the chosen ones, that's kind of his way, in my opinion, or my interpretation of talking about like the hero worship thing, people, we just talked about this, telling you how horrible you are, your affiliation, right? Yeah. Again, when you're at your first gym, nobody can tell you that your gym is not the absolute best one, and you don't know shit, right? Because you've never trained anybody else. You're homegrown at one particular gym that you walked into, and hopefully you get lucky and you find that perfect gym. But you don't know what you don't know, and then we again, the whole black belt thing. We talked about this a few times. I don't know if we ever talked about it on the podcast, but a lot of people do feel like if you walk into an academy and there's not 1,000 medals and you competed here and you competed that, well then you're not really qualified to be an instructor, or you're not a good instructor, because how can you be teaching someone to be a competitor if that's the route that they want to take, and they've never competed themselves, or they've never had success at the competition level? You could argue that all day. I think the best thing, since you're kind of since we're talking about Ari, find your vibe and you'll find your tribe.
I agree with that. All gyms have different vibes, and we've both trained at a lot of different gyms, and there's something about finding the right gym. Like I remember when I left Elite, I tried a couple different gyms out, and I ended up going to the Professor Upiana's Gracie Baja, and it was okay. It was first of all, Professor Upiana is a really good instructor, and that's one of the things that really brought me in there. And the students were all very technical, so I enjoyed training there. And then when Professor Brian opened up here in Sugar Land, I immediately followed, and we were here when we laid down the mats and all that stuff. And it's been a good vibe ever since. It's definitely been more my style. And I agree. If you're in a gym where you're a little uncomfortable, it's okay to look around. Like you said, it's your money. This is your journey. Find a place that fits you. You'll find it. There's going to be a gym that fits you, that your style of jiu-jitsu or your, not even your style of jiu-jitsu, but just fits your lifestyle.
Yeah, and I think that's the tough thing. It's and earlier I said homegrown, and I think that's what happens to a lot of people is they walk into one gym, they sign up, and then they just think that that's just the way, the truth, and the light, because they've never experienced anything else. And I always try to keep it simple, and I'll say, well, how do you know you like vanilla if you've never had chocolate, or vice versa? It's kind of like you have to have something to compare to. And that's why if you're training somewhere, you have to go to open mats. If you've got buddies in the community, because that happens very fast once you start training jiu-jitsu, is you start meeting people online or at tournaments or at open mats. Like a bunch of opportunities will open up to you where you can go and train at other people's academies, and then you'll start to see like, man, I really like this about this instructor, or I really like this about this gym, and I think that those same insecurities are why people always get weird. Certain instructors get weird about you cross-training because they're worried they're going to lose students. And I always kind of thought that was just bananas, because I'm like, man, if you've got a great product, then nobody's going to leave. If people buy into you and they believe in you, and you've got a great product, and you've got great jiu-jitsu and a great academy and a great environment, then who gives a shit if one of your students wants to go visit his buddy down the street or go to an open mat? Like, you shouldn't feel threatened. If you feel threatened, then something is wrong with your jiu-jitsu or your academy, because you shouldn't feel that worked up about something as small as that. And that's why I think, like, the important thing now is, if we're going to go back and talk to ourselves as white belts, that would be the main thing, is be humble and go train at other places, man. Because how can you know that you're at the best environment if you don't know?
You may train at a different gym and go, wow, I kind of like the vibe here better. I may even like the people there better. I may like the professor better. And that's okay, man. Like I'm a huge proponent of that, bro. It's your money. It's your journey. Don't feel like you are. There's a weird thing where at a certain level you're not supposed to leave a gym. I guess because the Crianchi or whatever, trader type thing. But that kind of comes from Brazil, and I don't think that's very American. Because it's not about being a trader. This is your journey. So if you find a place that better fits you, and will serve you better to get you to your goals in jiu-jitsu, or get you further along in your journey to where you want to be, like, you shouldn't leave. I think even at black belt level, that's okay. And I know that's probably controversial to say, but I don't think you don't owe anybody your full allegiance who's not giving you the same in return.
Yeah.
So if you're at a school where they're dedicated to you as you are dedicated to them, then yes, I think you should show some loyalty there. But they're dedicated to you, so you should be getting what you need. But if you got a school that's really not that they're not truly dedicated to you, or whatever level you're at, and you find a school that can serve that better, or would appreciate you more, or would be more dedicated to you, I think that you're doing a disservice to yourself as an individual by not going for that. You know what I'm saying? You shouldn't sacrifice. It's not marriage. You shouldn't sacrifice. You shouldn't have to compromise that to stay there. You know what I'm saying? This is your personal journey. You need to go what suits you, serves you best. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? You bring up another topic that maybe we can talk about next week is, this whole thing where you get people that cross train a lot and they have a membership here, but then they also have a punch card there, and then you go to a tournament and it's like, okay, so whose flag are you flying? Are you with us? Are you with them? So that's another thing that I'll talk to you about that next week.
That's a good, it's because that starts to get a little murky, right?
Yeah,
that's not really, and that's not what I was kind of saying. So that makes it a little murkier. I do think you should have a home school, and it's okay to cross train at other places. I mean, it's good to cross train, but you should have a home school that's your school. So
yeah, I agree.
That's another good time.
We'll get into that one next week.
So how about we've been kind of addressing white belts a little bit already, but let's. I think some of the stuff we talked about kind of goes for everybody, so I think it's time for our Dear White Belt segment.
Oh my God! All right.
I think this is everybody's favorite segment. What? I think it's like the other belts like to go, yeah, you dumb.
And
fucks.
the white belts are like, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. What?
Fucking finally someone's telling
I'm not supposed to take sandals onto the mats.
I'm supposed to wear shoes when I go to the bathroom.
All right, so I've got one for you. Dear White Belt, if you're rolling and you're at, let's say, an open mat, or maybe it's no-gi and you're around people that you don't know, and somebody taps you or asks you to move over, go ahead and move. Don't size them up and down. Don't try to look around to see.
Wait. What if I'm close to a submission?
I wouldn't give a shit if you were in a full-on submission. If I ask you to move, get your shit and slide over to the next square.
Did you hear that, white belts?
You don't need to size me up. You don't need to look down to find my belt rank. Especially if it's no-gi, it gets a little bit weird because, everyone's in no-gi. And here's why, white belts. In the history of jiu-jitsu, another white belt will never, ever ask you to move when you're about to crash into them, because white belts and blue belts, you're busy having the world championship match of your life. This is the absolute world title in your mind. So the last thing you're doing is actually being conscious of your surroundings. So the odds that another lower belt is going to ask you to be safe, respect everyone's space, and not crash into them will never happen. The only people that will ever tell you to slow down and move your ass to the next square so you don't kick me in the face is going to be an upper rank. I can guarantee you that shit. You don't have to, ask around about it. Trust me when I tell you, a lower belt will never ask a lower belt to move because you're in a full-on death match. So, dear white belt, if you see somebody else and you're not sure and they say something to you, believe me, they're doing it out of the best intentions. They want you to be safe. We want to be safe. Don't eyeball them. Don't look around. Don't ask who that person is. Trust me, just slide your dumb ass over so nobody else gets kicked in the face. All right?
Oh,
Have you had this happen?
Yeah.
When you get those looks like, oh, wait a minute.
It kind of bleeds into the unwritten rules of jiu-jitsu, where if you're on the mat, it's like, look, if you're a black belt, you've got priority. Now, if you're a black belt rolling with a lower belt and then you run into two black belts, which sometimes happens at our school, because we have a few black belts, then you move.
Yeah.
Or if it's the black belt that ranks you, you move. But that doesn't happen 90% of the time. If you and me are bumping into somebody, unless it's Professor Brian, they need to move.
Right.
Or now I guess Professor Joe, but that's about another 90% of the time you need to move. But I have had that happen where I'm bumping into somebody and I look over and they're looking at me like I should move.
Yes, that's the best
and
one.
I'm like, I mean, are you guys kidding? Like, I don't care that you're in that shitty ass triangle.
It's never gonna work.
Well, it might work because the other guy doesn't know how to freaking deal with it anyway. It might tap out of fear, or whatever's happening with your role. You know, you gotta move, man. You haven't earned that time. I've always said you have to earn your place at the table. It's something I like to say about certain things. You got to do your time and earn your place at the table, and that's one of those things. We've done our time. We've earned our place at that table. So when we're rolling, we have priority.
Dude, and I think you said it best because a lot of times, like when that happens, where you're in a good position, and then you look up and they think they're in a good position, and you make eye contact. It's always that weird eye contact, like when you get to the stop sign and everybody got at the same time. So everyone's looking around like, well, hey, I got here first, but you're on my right side, so do you have the right of way? And it gets super weird, and everybody tries to go, and now you got a 4-way pileup, you know. But that's the same look when I've been in like a dominant position, and I'll look over and they'll look at me, and it's just like, am I moving or are you moving? It's no, you're misreading my look. My look is move your ass so we don't crash into each other, you know? But that's that look, that stop sign look, man. So white belts, don't give me the stop sign look. Just gather up your things and slide over, and everybody can keep rolling happily ever after, guys.
All right. Well, I think maybe we should close it in on that note. That's a pretty good one to close it in on. So, all right. Well, this will be up pretty soon, and we did a little thing where I think we're going to have our iTunes and Anchor and all that up as well. So I'm going to play with that here in a minute. And till next week, I think next week we got some good topics to talk about. I'm sure something will pop up when we're training this week. We'll be like, it'll be some white belt did something, and it'll become our Dear White Belt segment. But again, as usual, if you guys see us and you got something you want us to talk about, or you want to shoot us a message, feel free. We're on got our Instagram page. I think most of you guys are following that. Probably should make a Facebook page at some point. Yeah. But anyway,
I'll let you do all that. I'm still trying to figure out how to work my Instagram. So.
Well, This is true. So, all right, guys. Well, that does it for this week, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you guys next week. So, any final words?
Nope. Keep training, guys.
All right. Awesome. Wait, did I just say os?
You did. It's os.
Oh my God. So
it's os, asshole.
So let's talk. That's another topic for next week. If you should even say that, which I normally never say that. So I don't know why I just did that. So I apologize to the entire jiu-jitsu community for that right now. So we're gonna end it before I say something else that's stupid.
Yeah. Hit the stop button.
Ow. I can't believe I said os.
Dude, I gotta go.